The following production is produced by the State University of New York College at Oneonta.
Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta, and tonight we're going to preview the upcoming women's lacrosse season. We've invited to studio head women's lacrosse coach Jess Poswang, along with players Rosemary Fazio and Rebecca Monteith. So please stay tuned after the break, and I'll be joined in studio by Jess Poswang.
Hey, how's it going?
Sir, are you okay?
What? Oh, this? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it'll go away.
Go away? But, sir, that can't be good.
No, it's cool, really.
Do you want a napkin or something?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this, so why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately, because time lost is brain lost.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is head women's lacrosse coach Jess Poswang. Welcome to the show, Jess.
Thanks, Geoff.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Originally, I am from Long Island, New York. I grew up there, and I decided to go to a SUNY school for college, and I went to Geneseo. I played field hockey and lacrosse there. Loved every minute of it. It was a great place. And after college, I got offered a coaching position in England. I went there. I coached for 2 years there. And while I was there, I did the under-19 team, helped coach that for England. And from that whole experience, I got offered the head coaching job for Finland. So
The national team.
The national team, yep, the women's team. And then the Oneonta job opened up, and I found myself here, and I've loved every minute of it. So.
Well, I'd like to start maybe with your undergraduate student-athlete experience and maybe how you think that got you maybe either prepared for coaching or because you're two-sport athletes, so you're a little different, but can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had a fantastic experience in college. I learned so much. I actually was an attack player before I went to college, and my coach that recruited me, Liz Monty, who's now the U of R women's lacrosse coach, she asked me during field hockey season if I would do a huge thing and change my position in the middle of college, and I said, okay, because she was my field hockey coach too. So I changed my position. I was a goalie, and I kind of taught myself everything, and I wound up being decently good in it. So I felt like that experience right there just made me so much more knowledgeable about the game. And I mean, I had 3 coaches when I was in college between field hockey and lacrosse, and I think I learned a lot from all of them, and I tried to get the best out of each of them. So.
Now I would say that you were probably a little better than decent as a goalie. I mean, you were a couple, 3-4-time all-conference?
Yeah, 4-time all-conference. I have a few records there.
So a little better than decent. And now, like you say, you learn the game. Being the goalie, I mean, you get to see the entire field. So do you think now that that's really what's helped you as a coach yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think, at least, especially with our team and things like that, a goalie's kind of like the coach on the field. They have to be confident enough to be able to tell players what's going on and kind of coach for the coach on the field. And you also have to be able to know the game. Like if someone's not doing what they're supposed to do, you have to know that and be able to explain that to the players on the field and have them understand that you do know what you're talking about.
So sort of like the point guard of lacrosse.
Basketball, yeah.
In lacrosse. Now, you said you went on to international experience. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that and how you got to coach the Finland team in the World Cup?
Yeah. Well, after graduation, I got offered a job in England, so I went over there. I coached at quite a few colleges over there, and I was at a boarding school, kind of like a prep school. And while I was there, I did the counties for Gloucestershire County, and through that, I moved up a little bit, and I started doing the developmental squad for England. And then from there, I got offered the Finland job, and with Finland, I love my girls. They all speak very good Finnish, which I don't, but they also speak English, which is a blessing because it's hard to coach them as it is, and I couldn't imagine if I didn't speak any Finnish. So we went over, my assistant coach, who's actually my assistant coach for Oneonta as well, Caitlin Mack, and Chris Duffy, who was a former Oneonta player. We went over to Finland and we coached. We had the European Championship in 2008 in Lahti, which is a small city outside of Finland. And it was the first time they've gone into an international competition of that measure. And we did well. We finished 7th place, and we actually couldn't qualify for the World Cup this year. That just went on because we weren't an established team for long enough. But we're ready to go for the next World Cup. So that's
you're
exciting.
Still involved in that?
Yep, I'm still involved.
Oh, that's exciting. Now, how different is the game? Is it between international?
It's there's a couple of rule changes that you have to adjust to, especially coaching. You only keep in our lacrosse, you keep 4 people back on their steering line, and you essentially play a 7v7 by the goal game. And internationally, I actually play 8x8, 8v8, and it's a bigger area to work with. So it's a lot different. We have a lot of, I personally like the international rules better because I think that it's easier for your midfielders, because a midfielder's a true midfielder. You don't keep anyone back just to play attack. So I prefer their rules a little bit
So they get
better.
to be involved in the play a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, that experience in the coaching, I mean, obviously, how do you incorporate it into what you do now here at Oneonta?
We were actually fortunate enough to have the Scotland national team come over and play us last fall. So I'm trying to bring a lot more international experiences and stuff to the girls. My girls were able to host the team. They stayed overnight, and they got to hang out with them for a little bit, which is really a unique experience. And we're going to Australia in 2011 in January, so next year. And we'll be playing the under-19 Australian team when we're over there as of right now, if everything goes according to plan. So it's definitely a cool thing to be able to say when you get older that I competed against 2 national teams in college.
And how do you think the influence of the international game, or just the international athletes playing at such a high level, how do you think that influences your squad?
I think my girls, when we played Scotland, they hung in there, which I was impressed with because Scotland did really well. Scotland actually finished 3rd in the international championship that we had against Finland. So they did well, and they also did very well in the World Cup too. So they were a top 10 team in the country, and in the world. And it was impressive that my girls stayed in there with them. And I think that the better you play, the better teams you play, the better you start becoming. So.
Right. Now, do you think that any of our players that are currently in the program maybe have aspirations to play internationally? Or
internationally? I think there's a couple of them that would be able to go and coach like I did. And when I was coaching, I got asked to play on some of the squad teams and stuff over there, which was a great experience. As far as tryouts and stuff like that, you never know. I think some of them are really talented. We've got some great players, and 2 of them you'll be meeting in a few minutes. Mm-hmm. And I think they've got the experience and the skill set that they definitely could play.
Well, that kind of a good segue into this year's team. We've got a couple of games under our belt. We went south. I guess the weather was a little better, but maybe not too much because they got hammered with the snow before we did. But can you just talk about your week of training and the games you played? We're 2-0.
Yeah, we are. It's a nice start to the season. We went to Virginia. It was not St. Croix. We went to St. Croix last year, which was a lot different. But Virginia was lovely, and we went down there. It's right outside Virginia Beach's Newport News area. We played Christopher Newport, and they were nice enough to host us for the week. They let us use their facilities and stuff like that. The first day we went down there, it was about 65, so that was fantastic. And then it just was a slow decline to the end of Thursday, but it was still better than the 3 feet of snow that we got here. So the girls played great. They did well. It was different playing outside versus where we were in the gym to start, which is a huge gym, but it's almost a field, but it's a lot different when you have a full field. So it was good, and they learned a lot, and we worked on our transition game. We got some rusty spots out, and they hung in there with them, and we were down both games to start, but we came back and we did well.
Now, the good thing about it is everybody got to play.
Yep.
Like you said, kind of maybe the rusty spots or maybe working out some of the kinks. How important is that during the early season to maybe get a lot of kids playing time for later on?
Definitely. I think you're only as strong as your weakest player, and I think to have a solid bench and to look at the bench when maybe one of my starters, something happened or anything like that, and I can look at them and I have a problem looking at my bench trying to figure out who I can put in there because I've got so many strong players. That's a great problem to have. I also think it's important to definitely get the kinks out before we go into SUNY, our conference play. We scrimmaged Binghamton, and we did that last year as well, and they're a pretty good Division I team, and we got to have everyone play in that as well before we went down there, and just getting everyone to play and just feeling comfortable because it's hard to be expected to go in without having a significant amount of time underneath your belt and being able to adjust kind of to a game.
Right. Now for you, the adjustment for the early season is really being indoors.
Yes.
And now obviously the field is larger and there's more space and stuff like that. So how do you think the girls did with that?
I think they did well. I think they were reminded how big the field actually was, which actually, you know what, this year is kind of interesting because our first practice we were outside, January 25th. So it was 55 degrees. So it was crazy this year. And it went from that to 10 degrees very quickly. But it was nice to be outside for the first day. We just full field scrimmage the whole time, so they remember how big the field is and that sort of thing. Because you tend to do the little kids soccer game if you don't know. Everyone runs that way, and follows the ball. So I think that's the great part about us being able to go away on break is that they do have the luxury of going to a little bit warmer weather, completely outside, and remembering what it's like to do that before starting games.
Well, now as we move forward into the season, players that we should be watching for this year. I mean, we'll have Rebecca and Roe on, but who else should we be keeping our eyes on?
I think, well, obviously Rebecca and Roe. They had great years last year, and I think this year is just another one for the record books for them. And I also think that our goalie, Annalise Machetta, I think she's doing a really good job. And being in the same position as her when I was in college, the only goalie, that's a lot of pressure on you, and you either rise to the occasion or you fall. And I think she's really starting to step it up. She's had 2 good games, and she's kept the team in there. I also think Michelle Hammer, who's one of our defensive players, she earned All-SUNY last year, and I think she's going to have a really great year. I also think, based off of the Virginia Wesleyan game, we gave Katie O'Connor, who's one of our midfielders, a junior, we gave her the chance to face guard one of Virginia Wesleyan's top kids, and who averages about 8 goals a game or so, and she held her to 2 goals, and she was phenomenal in that game. I've never seen her play better. And I also think that a couple of our freshmen are going to have some really good years. And,
we have who in particular?
I think there's 4 of them that stand out in my mind right now. I think Taylor Troiano is doing a great job in midfield for us. She scored the first goals the past 2 games. I think Jackie Martella is going to have a really good year, solid midfielder. Molly McRory, who's from Clarkston, she's new to the team. She came in the winter, but I think she's starting right now for us. She's doing a great job. And Caroline Tully, she just had a great game. She came off the bench and scored 6 goals. So you can't ask for anything more than that.
Right, so it sounds like, as we say, in the early season, it's great to have all these players contributing and kind of getting some field time. And so now as we move into, as you say, the SUNY, I mean, that's how you get to the NCAA tournament pretty much. You got to win your conference, get the automatic qualifier. How do you see us stacking up this year? I mean, last year, Buffalo State and Cortland were, the 2 top teams or whatever, right with us. We finished 3rd. Our only 2 losses were to them, but, I mean, we're a year older and more experienced. And like you said, Annalise, she's doing great so far. I mean, how do you think we'll stack up this year?
I know, honestly, it's too early to tell, and they haven't played any games yet either, so I have no feel for what they are. However, with that being said, I think that my girls are a year older. We only lost 3 people. They were 3 starters for me, but it's only 3 people. And if you look at the grand scheme of things, I think that our team wants it. They want it, and that makes me feel so much more confident in them. when you go out, and it's not something that's expected. They realize it's something that's earned, and I think that makes them play that much better. And you can't be number one forever.
Right, no, you can't.
And I think it's about that time. And, you know, last year we hung in with Buff State. We were actually beating them, and we lost by 3 goals. And I think this year we're really stressing being a 60-minute team and, you know, controlling the whole game. Cortland was very, very good last year. Danielle Torrey was amazing. I mean, she's Player of the Year. She's fantastic, but she's gone. Yeah. So that's a nice thing to have in the back of my mind. So they also have some great freshmen that came in there too. So
right. Well, it seems like as the team matures, we're looking for some great things this year, and we certainly hope that you stay healthy and everybody plays as well as they can. And we wish you good luck this year.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right, well, I'd like to thank Jess for joining me tonight. And after the break, I'll be joined by Rosemarie Fazio.
When life's this hard, graduating can be even harder. But you can help Ativa and the students in your community make it through by visiting boostup.org.
Welcome back to the show. Now joining me is junior women's lacrosse player Rosemarie Fazio. Welcome to the show, Ro.
Hi, Geoff.
All right. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, I'm a junior. I'm from Westchester, New York. It's a little down south. I played field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse. Basketball is actually my sport my whole life, which I actually was going to come here and play, but I decided not to. I was going to take a little break from sports, and then I got a little bored, and I decided to play lacrosse, and it was perfect because Coach just happened to be coming in. So, so I decided to play lacrosse, and it's been great ever since.
Well, I would say that good for us that you decided to play lacrosse, because you've been a pretty special player for us in our program. Last year you set a school record for assists, and you've been an all-conference player for us. Can you just talk a little bit about what it's like, you know, your first few years being on the team, and you're really a leader because, you know, we have a lot of, you know, freshmen and sophomores, so.
Well, when I came in, I was a freshman, and there was a huge senior class, and there was only a few of us, so I think we kind of had to step it up more, and the seniors definitely molded us, and Coach molded us into how she wanted us to be. And I think just as that senior class left, I was more of like, even though I was a sophomore, I was more of like an upperclassman because we had such a big freshman class. So I guess that's how I started to become more of a leader.
Now, how important do you think it is to be a team leader within our program?
I think it's very important. I think that if no one steps up on the team, then you can't have any like role model or anyone to really tell the team like, let's go.
Right. Do you look at yourself as kind of a lead by example, or are you kind of, you know, yelling and screaming, or, you know, just trying to get them motivated?
I think a little of both, but probably more I try to just play. But if the team, I think, needs a little bit of a, come on guys, let's go. That's normally what I'll do, just a little bit of a pep talk.
Right.
So.
Now, we've had a couple games. We played down in Virginia. You know, just everybody got a chance to play, which I think is great. Coach mentioned earlier that she thinks it's great in the early season for kids, you know, to work out the kinks and that kind of stuff. How important was it, do you think, to get those first 2 wins out of your belt and to move forward? I
think it was so important. I think that it definitely gave us a lot of confidence, and I think that also down there it was a little bit of warmer weather, and just we were able to play on a field, which was also great because we've been inside the gym. Yeah. So we were able to get our transition going, and just like little things that we really need to work on before we start going into our season now full force. Right.
Now, what kinds of things are you looking forward to this spring? As a team and maybe individually? I mean, I know it's a team sport, but do you have some goals that you've set for yourself individually and as a team?
Well, for myself, I just found out my last season, so I really want to kind of go out with a bang, and just win. Like I said before, lead by example, and as a team, just win.
Right,
really.
You win the SUNY
just come together and
go to the NCAA tournament,
which we do have potential for.
Yep.
So
yeah, we certainly have the players to do that. Now, you said last year you just were accepted to FIT. That your major is fashion. How exciting is that for you to know where you're going to be moving on to?
It's really exciting. I was kind of in limbo there for a while, but I just recently found out, so I'm I'm excited to get my career going in the right direction, but it is sad leaving,
Yeah.
especially for lacrosse. But,
Right. Now, what kinds of things are you hoping to do with the fashion?
Once I graduate from FIT, I'm hoping to become either like a fashion buyer or somewhere in that merchandising field. So
Now, we've had some other fashion majors on the show, previous in the year. And have you been involved with the fashion show that they have every spring? Have you done any of that? Or?
my freshman year, I did try to, but with lacrosse, all of their meetings and all of their events really just didn't go hand in hand. It was always conflicting, so I had to step back from that and obviously play lacrosse.
Right. Now, do you, to be a fashion major, so were you always someone who would dress a certain way or kind of like try to create a fashion or?
I definitely like to get dressed up and I like to be in the new current fashion, but I don't know, I just have always had a desire to become like in the fashion field, so I don't know, I really enjoy it. Yes, my mom, she knows I love shopping, so.
Yeah, I was going to say that fashion usually means to shopping.
Yeah.
But, we certainly, congratulations on the FIT, and we certainly hope that you have a great season, to continue
Thank
along
you.
with what you've had. So good luck this spring.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'd like to thank Rosemarie Fazio for joining me this evening. And after the break, I'll be joined by sophomore Rebecca Monteith.
Hi, how are you doing today?
What looks good?
Our special today is shrimp scampi. It's been sitting around for about a week.
Excuse me, what time are you guys leaving? We're gonna rob your house tonight.
Don't you wish there were warnings to protect you from life's risks? With diabetes, there is one. It's called A1C, a simple blood test that helps measure your risk of serious complications. Learn more at diabetesaonc.org.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is sophomore women's lacrosse player Rebecca Monteith. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a sophomore. Here I play attack for the lacrosse team. I'm from West Islip, Long Island, and I'm a communication studies major with an advertising minor.
Oh, communication studies. Well, that's certainly, so this should be pretty good for you. Long Island, we have quite a few players from Long Island on our women's lacrosse team. How important is that to play with, players who are, from where you grew up?
Well, I happen to have two of my former teammates from high school, Samantha Vore and Taylor Triano, who I played with, so getting to play with them for 4 more years or 3 more years is going to be really great. They're some of my good friends too.
Yeah.
And Long Island's just a big lacrosse area, so we've all played with different travel teams together, so it's really.
So really the transition for you with them, being a sophomore, certainly, you kind of would know them and know how they play, and so that's probably pretty important.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, for you, you had the greatest freshman season we've ever had here in women's lacrosse. You set the single season scoring mark, which stood for almost a quarter century, which was pretty special. What was that like to be that kind of an impact player?
It was a great feeling. I came in not expecting to do anything like that, and as the season went on, I wasn't even thinking about that, and I had a meeting with Coach, and she said, do you realize how close you are to the record? And something like that wasn't even going through my mind, and once it got to my head, I realized, and I really wanted to step it up and just make it happen.
Now, but because we had quite a few home games last year, so we got a chance to watch you play a lot, and it didn't look like, you have those kids who would be all about their stats and, the personal glory or whatever, but it just seemed like you were getting your points in the flow of the game, which, again, as being a team player, how important is that for you, with your team?
I enjoy being just a team player. I don't want to be the star or anything, but it just so happened that I would, be there for the right cut, the right time, and I think I just blended in, and just the stats just showed something.
Right.
else.
So being in the right place at the right time has a lot to do with it as
Yes.
well. And playing, your teammates. Ro, of course, she feeds the ball. She's great at finding open players and getting people the ball in the right place to score. So how important is that for you to work with her with another year? This will be her final year.
Yeah.
We found out. So how important is that for you?
We work really well together. We just came in and hit it off, and she set the assist record, and I feel like we work together to break those records. I mean, she assisted
Right.
a lot of my goals. So.
Probably about a third of them, I
Yeah.
would think. Now, as a freshman coming in academically, you know, a lot of kids, we haven't had too many sophomores. I think you're the second sophomore that we've had on the show this year. Just to get a perspective of what it's like to make that transition from high school to being a college student athlete. You know, you got to go to class, you know what I mean, and you got to have practice and trying to balance all that and time management. So you could talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty good on time management. I've always done better in school when I'm busy playing lacrosse, or in high school I played field hockey also. So I found my grades were always better when I was more active with the sport, and it keeps me more focused and aware of the time I have. So usually I do better.
Now, you've found the experience thus far at Oneonta what you thought it would be when you were recruited?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Coach Poswang has been, you know, I mean, the way she works with her team, I know, you know, just by listening to how she talks about the team, you found that, her coaching style and all that, which is fit your personality or your style. I mean, obviously not every coach and player mesh all the time, but I think it's important, you know, the way she has worked with our team, and it looks like you guys are working well together.
Yeah.
Now, what are you looking forward? We've played a couple games. You've had some good games. How important going forward do you think, you know, the team will do? And
I think that this past week definitely was a confidence booster for us. We were working so hard in preseason that to put it all out on the field to see how we were against other teams. But I was really anxious to see how we were because I thought we were doing really well. And to come out with the wins just really made us feel a lot more confident. I'm really excited for our game on Saturday.
Now, the two teams that we did play down south, I mean, just so people know, I mean, Christopher Newport was either in the top 20 last year or just outside. I mean, they were a pretty good team. Christopher Newport and then Virginia Wesleyan, I believe, won their conference or went to the NCAAs. So, I mean, certainly we're playing, the teams that we're playing are top-notch, and for early season, to get 2 wins, you know, it was a little more, you know, after we got started, I guess, after halftime, we beat Virginia Wesleyan rather easily. So how important do you think it was to beat teams that are, you know, probably might go to the NCAAs this year?
I mean, like I said, it was still just a confidence booster, and to realize that they're not just, you know, okay teams, that they're actually pretty decent and really good, that it just makes you feel that much better and that you've accomplished even more and your hard work is really paying off. Right.
Now, how important do you think that'll be once we get into our, you know, the main part of the schedule, the SUNY playing teams of that caliber?
It's definitely important because everyone has a new team this year. We don't know how, you know, Cortland's going to be our Buff State, but I think we have a really solid team this year and we're ready to play.
Now, right, because of course now on the preseason rankings, you know, Buffalo State and Cortland were both in there. So we have 2 teams that are even in the rankings just within our conference, which actually, you know, how do you feel about that? I mean, it makes our conference better, knowing that there's 2, and I mean, I include us in that as well as 3 really teams that can compete nationally. So how important do you think that is for our program?
It's definitely important. I mean, look, those stats are from last year, and they lost a lot of key players, so maybe they won't.
Maybe they won't be as strong?
Yeah.
We certainly hope. Well, listen, thank you for coming by tonight, and we certainly wish you good luck, and we hope that you can, I mean, now we'll be starting to think about some of the career scoring records that have stood for about 15 or 20 years as well, and we certainly hope you stay healthy, so good luck this spring.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank all tonight's guests, Rebecca Monteith, Rosemarie Fazio, and head women's lacrosse coach Geoff Poswang for coming by, and we'd like to thank you again for joining us, and we would like you to join us next week for another edition of Inside Red Dragon Sports.